Can't complain, man. I just love the people we get to talk to.
Yeah, I do too. I honestly, the more that I reflect on last year, the more that I look at some of these relationships that we've built. Oh, I love the ears too, by the way. The ears are my favorite. They're phenomenal. The more that I get the opportunity to go, God, we have built some incredible relationships. Yeah. They've impacted our lives. We've impacted their lives. It's been a fun year to do something. Today we're talking about, how do we make 2024 your best year yet? But I got to tell you, I did the most wonderful exercise ever last night. And I got to do it with my family. And this is kind of the start of, handling goals and making goals and talking about things. But this is probably one of the most interesting things that I had the opportunity to do with my family last night. I said, what was your favorite part of 2023? So we're all sitting around the dinner table. There's 5 of us. And it was really interesting. Even, I got 2 12-year-olds and I got a 9-year-old. And they almost kind of forgot about the year. And so here's what I want to challenge every single person that's watching this is take a moment and I want you to go through, and I'm going to share my list with you because this is out of control. I did this last night with my family. I was like, I got to take that to work, and just me and Nate are going to go through it. But I think it's really important to go through your calendar, your social media feeds, and all of your pictures in your phone. And start January 1st of 2023 and work through the chaos that's in your social media feeds, in your pictures especially, right? In your LinkedIn, in your professional calendar. I got to tell you, this is the craziest. This is what me and the kids came up with last night. We did a ton of firsts this year.
I love this already.
I got stopped. Some of these are professional and some of these are personal. Most of them are personal, but I'm just gonna spill it out there. So if my wife's watching, I love you.
I can't wait.
I got stopped. This is the first time this has ever happened. We're from Nebraska. You would think this would happen all the time. I got stopped for the first time ever on a U.S. highway by a cattle drive. I have a picture of it. Insane.
Yeah.
I love it. I taught my kids backgammon this year. I started swimming. That was wonderful. I got gifted by the most wonderful employees ever, a dartboard last year for Christmas. I love playing darts. It's a good hobby of mine. Any guesses through today? Now there's going to be a lot of darts played over the next week and a half.
Oh yeah.
Any guesses how many dart games I've played at home? We're not talking at the office here, but
I want to say 500.
876 games.
Holy cow.
Yeah. The best part is I'm still breathing another opportunity.
Exactly.
Honestly, This is the craziest thing. I'm telling you, everybody has to do this exercise. I took my kids to their first hockey game this year. We had to put a dog down this year. That was pretty tough. Right. I had Easter at my house. At 4th of July at my house. I found out that I love fajitas.
Proud of you.
I had no idea. My wife and I literally went to multiple restaurants in town and had a fajita eating contest. Mm-hmm. Not who could eat the most. I'm trying to lose weight and be healthier. It was more so who had the best fajitas in town. We found out Ole. Shout out to you, Ole. Greatest freaking fajitas in town. You and I went to TIA.
Oh, gosh, yeah. That was the first for me. That was actually one of the...
We went to Florida. We went to the TIA conference. We snuck into the Harry Potter ride at Universal Studios. This is a real thing.
You just told us. I don't know if we'll be allowed back.
They're probably not going to let us sign up anymore. This is a real thing. We went to TIA. We went to Florida. It was insane. I got a puppy this year. Mm-hmm. I fed a giraffe leaves, like straight up friggin' leaves, right into his damn mouth. His tongue is like this long. Service is glitchy. I don't know. Hopefully not. Yeah. Stay with us, Tire Killer. I planted 100 trees. I flew for the first time in a private plane this year. Ooh. Never thought I'd do that.
Yeah.
I went to an MLS game. I picked up a friggin' bat. a bat,
Yeah.
not by its wings. I have a picture of this. I put it on a cookie sheet and covered it with a box. So kitchen utensils are for.
Yeah. Oh, heck yeah.
Picked up a bat. I saved my sister-in-law's life. I started couples league with my wife. Probably one of my highlights of my summer. I loved every second of that. I glamped for the first time. Okay. My grandma passed away. My wife's grandma passed away. I went floating down a river this year, right? And I had 2 kids that won championships in soccer in their rec league. I'll be honest with you. You've got to take a moment and go through and do it with your family because it was such a fun experience. Obviously, we're going to talk a little business here, but I thought it was so interesting to reflect because my kids almost forgot half of the year.
I'm upset with you. Forgot one of my most favorite.
Give me one.
Pickleball.
Oh, Lord.
You picked up a pickleball this year.
I did pick up pickleball this year, and I've got knee braces to show.
Yeah, you got the scars.
I've got scars.
But I love this. It was, as you were reading your list, it made me reflect on all my first.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, goodness gracious. I might have to make a list, and I'll report to you on Tuesday, and we'll share that.
You've got to. But here's what I've noticed is, when you transition from your personal life to your business life, we're talking goals here, I don't share those firsts on my business profile side of things. And that's something that I want to get better at this year, right? I can go into anybody's calendar. I always used to say this when we were managing it. You show me somebody's calendar, you can show me what they've been working on and focus on. I looked back at my calendar. I went through every single month and had the opportunity to go, yeah, I forgot about that meeting.
Right.
Oh, I forgot about that meeting. Right. Oh, yeah, I was doing that for that week, right? And it's so interesting. There's always got to be a mix between personal and professional. Yeah. But I really want to take more time this year to have more professional things on my list because they're happening. I'm just not sharing them. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
E-Carrier Check had an incredible year. As far as updates, everybody had, a challenge this year. This was a challenging year. This is brutal, right? I mean, trucking companies are going out left and right. Brokers are going out left and right. Freight Waves called it a bloodbath.
Yeah, it's insane, man. And I'm really glad we're going to talk through some of these goals because you and I both have the opportunity to fill these out throughout the month of December. To professionally wise, what's our goals, right?
Yeah.
And then we also have some personal goals as well.
Yeah.
That we'll work through in private. But I'm really pumped to actually work through these with everyone watching because I think these are important. And you truly don't think about these until you run your own business or you work for an agent, right?
Yeah.
You're an agent-based model. You're working from home. These are so important to be thinking about.
Yeah.
And honestly, while I was working through these, I was sometimes like, shoot, I'm being too hard on myself, or is this where I need to be?
Yeah.
And honestly, the where I think best is at home on my couch reflecting, and so I feel a lot of this at home. But yeah, let's talk through some of these real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got to tell you a random story. My life is consisting of random stories, but it does reflect. It does reflect on this very hard. The first time I went to Disneyland, okay. My wife and I lived in San Diego at the time, and I took the time to print out my MapQuest paper. Don't judge me. I know how old I am. A
lot of gray.
Yeah, you don't have to judge me. So I had my MapQuest, and I got lost. I did. I got lost. And so Casey and I were getting frustrated at the situation. She was not really frustrated with me because, we just couldn't figure out how to get there. We could see it.
Yeah.
We couldn't get there. Okay. So I'm on MapQuest and we pulled over. Right. And we sat there and talked about it. And I'm like, okay, well, here's a map. We had a map, right? Because it's MapQuest, right? I didn't have a computer or a phone. I didn't have Google Maps back in the day.
Right.
But sometimes you have to pull over to understand where you're at, right? The other side of this, So today what we're doing is we're just pulling to the side of the road, right? We have to pull over to the side of the road. But here's something that I think is really, really interesting for you to think about is that when I get on MapQuest or Google Maps nowadays, if I don't know where I'm starting, I can't put a destination. Right?
Yep.
And so you have to have an OD pair. We're going to make it trucking related, an origin and destination. You have to know where you're at right now, right? And so when I say, hey, you got to reflect, you got to look back, that is so important to get lost, pull over, and let's figure out where we're starting from. Right? So that's the goal with these questions. Yep. Is I think it's really important that you just take a moment and say, okay, I'm going to pull over. I'm going to identify where I'm at, and then I'm going to start going through these things and doing those things. So I'm going to have you hammer on a couple of these questions as we work through this worksheet together. So,
yeah. Well, one of the questions that we could be asking ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Can you reflect on your performance over the past year? Are there any ideas for room for growth or development? When I read this and think to myself, I know we're not talking personal, but if we're talking more of the professional setting, I don't think the sacrifices that we have to make to have this growth, we have to think about the sacrifices, and then if I'm willing to make those sacrifices.
Yeah.
I see that a lot from like Will Jenkins and Dennis Brown. They always talk about like making sacrifices, right? So that's one thing. I think there's room for growth and professionally wise, making those sacrifices.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to do the things you don't want to do sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's where marketing your calendar helps you with that consistency, things like that.
Yep, absolutely. One thing that I like to do, especially when you ask, the reflect of your performance, for me, I really break it into multiple buckets. I look at, professional career.
Right.
I look at, how do we make money? Everyone's got a mortgage, right? I look at, my health. That's been something that's, if I was going to say what a weakness is me this year, it was my health. I had to do some changes. I'm down in weight this year. I went in heavier than I'm going out in 23.
Yeah.
So I'll take some of those wins.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got to look at my health. I've got to look at my career. I really think it's important that you look at the relationships that you have in your life, both personally and professionally. We wouldn't be here today without you guys. We wouldn't 100%. Be here today without the support of my family and my wife and my kids and all those things. So I think that's really important that you look at your relationships and what's working and what's not.
Yeah.
And then, honestly, the fun and the happiness and purpose and meaning, why are we here and why are we doing what we're doing? And the short answer is we want to get out there and help people, and we want to go out and help them vet carriers, find carriers, and then we also want to give them some incredible shipper leads.
Just changes some lives
and just do that. So I always look when I answer one thing, I look at and say, okay, what worked and what didn't, and then in those categories, that's something to reflect on. Keep her cooking. I
love it. I love this one too. Are there any skills or training that you would like to acquire or enhance or excel in 2024? One of the things that I've been at the Carry Check for a little over 2 years, and some of you may know, some of you may not. But one of the things that I picked up off this guy right here is audiobooks. Continuously. I can't talk today. It's whatever. But feeding your mind with either knowledge, maybe it's sales, maybe it's this trucking industry, or maybe it's just mental health related. But I think we have to continue to feed your mind with knowledge, with education, with things that could potentially just grow yourself.
Yeah.
And I didn't do enough of that last year, any of my years. I'm 30 years old. I've never done that. I'm not a big reader, that.
Right.
So I think professionally wise, one of my goals personally is to listen to some audiobooks, one a month.
Love that.
Whether it's sales, mental health, any way that I can make myself grow and help others. That's what I'm about.
Yeah.
Right.
I love.
And this will essentially come back to the way I am working professionally too, as well.
Yeah.
Obviously we got to make content, and I want to make good content.
Yeah.
I want to provide the best service for our subscribers.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, I think something that I want to work on as far as a skill this year is really taking an approach of, trying to coach people up, and not only coach people up, but also this is my year. If I was going to give it one word for this year, is I really want to. The word is accountable, and that's probably more. I want to hold myself more accountable this year. Now, there's people around me. I'm going to hold them accountable a little bit more, but more so in an accounting. How do we strengthen those muscles of how do we make Nate more of a leader?
Right.
How do we make our programmers leaders and really start to understand? So accountability is one of my things that I really want to work on this year. And then I want to hold those people around me accountable, but not in a sense of, hey, I got to find another Nate, in a sense of how do I make Nate even a better person going out in 24. So that's what I really want to take that approach. I also think, gosh dang, this is so important, is I heard this the other day, is that, what drives us is consistency. But I heard this guy the other day. I was listening to a financial book, and it was a short form read, and so I'll take it because he was kind of dry. Boy, that was a rough read or listen. But he talked about, he goes, if I can just have above average results consistently, okay, that's my, how do we do that? And I know that we have ups, we have downs, but if somehow or another I can just kind of keep heavy, steady. So steady, accountable, coaching, those are the three things that I'm really going to work on. And how I'm going to do those things is I'm going to continue to focus on more calendar. Right now, if I don't have something in between meetings, maybe I'm not utilizing that time as well as I need to. I'm going to listen to some time management books, the first part of Q1. And so, if I can put a layer underneath my goals of action items in order to accomplish those goals, boy, that really helps me springboard into getting that new skill set that I need. And the skill set I need at this age is, besides getting worse gray hair, is the fact that I need to just, keep doing those things consistently and take advantage of that time that's there. So that's my goal. Time management, accountability.
I love that.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man. What are the most important outcomes or achievements that you would like to see by the end of 2024?
Boy, that's such an interesting question. I really want to make sure that I'm focusing on what we can control. If you look at, I'll give you an example. Boy, did you know that that convoy is going to get shut down this year?
Oh.
Yeah. Did you know Yellow or, the Suez and Panama Canal are going to be a train wreck? I can't control any of that. You know what I mean? And so, if I'm going to say what's the most important outcomes or achievements, it's just being more self-disciplined this year. And I don't probably need that extra cookie from my health side of things.
That's why I ate that last cookie.
I know. I appreciate that you're taking one for the team. But I gotta make sure that the outcomes that I'm looking for, ultimately are, I would love to help 1,000 people all get one account. That'd be awesome. Can you imagine? Everybody comes to us and says, how do I get accounts? How do I get accounts? What do we say when we call a shipper? The outcomes I'm hoping for is that I can help our users get to their goals.
Right. Yeah. A couple of things that I wrote down too, since we're sharing still. I want to make sure that by 2024, the end of it, I'm fearless. When I'm writing content, I want to be more consistent with my content.
Yeah.
We get into that groove of, I sounded like an idiot or someone might judge me. We're entitled to our own thoughts and feelings.
Yeah.
And, we talk about freight broker anxiety. There's sales anxiety. There's, influencer anxiety.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to pump through that
and
get through it. And I think with my other goals I mentioned is, listen to some audiobooks that can push me even farther.
Yeah.
But being fearless.
That would be the greatest gift of all. I'll give you a wonderful example. If you follow us on LinkedIn, obviously, I'm a founder and I oversee this company, right? Some would say the CEO.
Big deal.
Yeah. However, if you look at what my title is on LinkedIn, it's a VP.
Yeah.
And I took the humble card, and I need to make sure this year that I'm being maybe not so imposter syndrome, or that fearless approach is huge, man. Like I don't have that, and we need that from the leader. And so that's something that my goal is to just just come out and be who I am. And if people like that, great. If they don't, then it is what it is.
Right.
Here's who I am, and here's what our goals are, and here's what we're trying to accomplish. And so that's my goal, is to, God, I love how you put that. Being a fearless leader, what a wonderful what a wonderful thing.
And the reason why I came up with that is because we talk to so many freight brokers, and they're so I've been there too. I wasn't calling shippers, but I was making outbound calls. We have that anxiety. We get we're so scared.
Yep.
We got to be fearless. We don't know what the other person looks like on the phone. They're not going to remember you a month from now. They get so many calls. So we got to be fearless in the things we do, and not be afraid to make those mistakes. And 2024, man, I'm going to kick some ass. I tell you that.
I love that. I love that. We have to have that mindset. It's not going to be a year. This is going to be a weird year.
Yeah.
It's going to be a weird year, and I think you have to have that mentality of being fearless. We've got the election coming. There's all kinds of random economic and social aspects of things. Everything's really loud too. Something that I thought was really a unique thing that I did probably October of this year is I started to control who I was following on my social sites.
Right.
And I started controlling all that aspect, because you said it earlier, the input is what's going to end up coming on the output. And so if I can control that negativity, if I can control those negative thoughts on my input of social sites, I'm on social media. Right. It is what it is, right? But I got to make sure that I'm controlling what I'm feeding myself and what I'm seeing. Obviously, some of the people that I work with have sick sense of humor, and I love it.
Don't talk about it.
But that's something that I love, that you're going to be fearless, man. I think that's huge. Consistency over this year is going to be huge, and making sure that we're just taking advantage of the time. Because I think if you just drive for another 30 minutes, you'll get maybe that above average outcome.
Yeah, definitely. I think one too, as we're sitting here, is one question you should always ask, like, what are your whys? Some whys will be will be the same throughout the year. Your family, just yourself being a better person. Why do you want to do the things you do in 2024? Sometimes it could change. Maybe you want to go on that trip you never thought you'd take, or maybe buy the house, the gym, the house of your dreams, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think those whys change, and it's okay. Yep. Write them down.
Yeah.
Because this will help you. Those whys will help you kind of stay on this path as well, in my opinion. So.
I think if you don't have a clear focus, I'll give you an interesting example. Let's just say, for the sake of it, that if you're not running in a clear direction, I got a cousin that is a vegan, right? And I'm not going to judge. I eat a lot of meat. I don't know what to tell you, but here's something really interesting about her. If she's watching, she's actually a wonderful person, and I try to support her.
Yeah.
But if she goes to a restaurant, it's very clear what the vegan options are.
Oh yeah.
It's this small corner right here, right?
Yep.
I get to choose everything else. She gets to choose this. But what's really unique about her, at least understanding her clear direction, is that it's easy to make a decision. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have a good why, and you're just out there to be out there, boy, it's harder to make a decision.
Goodness, yeah.
You know what I mean? It always takes me back to that Alice in Wonderland movie. I always think about that all the time when she gets up there and she's like, hey, which direction do I need to go? And he goes, well, where are you going? And she goes, I don't know. And then the cat responds, I guess it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You need to know your why to start your year. And sometimes looking back, you find it, right? And so I think that's really important. I love that you brought that up, because I'm a big believer in understanding what's motivating you so that you can make clear decisions very quickly and understand, here's my values, here's what I stand for, and here's why I'm here doing what I do. Right. So
I love it, man. If you guys want a copy of this goal sheet, I'll send it to you. You fill it out on yourself. Feel free to share some ideas with us, and maybe we can kind of point you in a direction that you maybe never thought of, or vice versa, right? Yeah. We're open to suggestions.
Yeah. What are your goals in 24? I mean, it's make sure you're breaking it out and you're thinking about it from where am I at right now?
Yeah.
What did I do well? What did I not? We just did a SWOT analysis, that strengths, weaks, opportunities. And I tell you what, I'm choking my coffee. It's worth your time to say, okay, you know what? My weaknesses are cold calling. My weaknesses are, I get anxiety over every load or whatever it may be, right? But here's my strengths. I'm good when I'm on digital media and things like that. So take advantage of your strengths.
Yep.
Keep doing those because I love, if you look at all your goals or you look at 2024, what are you going to stop? What are you going to continue? And what are you going to start? It's that simple.
Right.
My grandma had the best rose bush I ever saw. That rose bush sat right behind her garage door. And I'll be honest with you, she had to cut it back every year in order to get the results that she wanted, right? So she had to prune to make room for the next blossoms, right? And, she has, this is kind of interesting. And I was just over at my folks' house who moved into her house. And she hasn't been alive since 2007 or 8. And my parents aren't rose people. But because of the habit and her willingness to stop, prune those roses so that she can make sure that she has better blossoms, that rose bush blooms every summer. And it is the most beautiful rose bush I've ever seen. But she knew that she had to cut things back out of her life and she had to cut some of those beautiful blossoms out. And so stop, continue, start. What are you going to do with that? So big believer in looking at each of your goals and what you're doing right now. Because sometimes you have to prune out in order to grow.
Well put, man. Well put.
So
really appreciate that. Guys, this is it.
Yeah.
We got to reflect.
Yeah.
Set these goals out. I'm really glad that we had the opportunity to talk through these.
I agree.
It wasn't the funnest show maybe that everyone's listened to, but hey,
it's all right.
I think it's important.
Yeah, I think so too. I think at least gives you guys an understanding of how we work and what we're doing in order to hopefully better serve you guys. And from that side of things, I'm a big believer. Consistency. Juan, what's up, brother? What's going on? Creativity, continuous learning new things. Build your skills, man. It's good to see you, Juan. I hope you have a great Christmas with that girlfriend of yours or wife. I can't remember. Maybe it's both. I'm just kidding. But I'm glad that you're on, man. I hope you have an awesome holiday season. We'll be back next week with something. But you guys have a wonderful weekend. That's the show.